Hi, I'm Shelby Wagner. I'm author of a book called Learning to Dance in the Rain, which is about surviving grief, internet dating, and romance scams. I'm a former music teacher, elementary school, taught for 25 years, and I have over 60 years experience as choir director or organist at churches, various churches in Michigan and Tennessee. I currently live in Sturgis, Michigan, and just moved there after my husband died to be close to my daughter.
Wow. Well, first of all, our condolences, and the organist and the background, very interesting relative to that, and your book about helping people, and very timely, people looking to connect with other people over the internet, perhaps in a romantic way. And also, it would be very useful to them to understand and how to avoid certain scams. What would come to mind what would come to mind if somebody says, I need to know what to look for to avoid a scam? What should they look for?
Well, the very first thing that a lot of these scammers do is want to take you off of the dating website, off into Google Hangouts or WhatsApp, or there's a lot of different places they want to go. And the website I read on there don't do that, but I had thought I might write a book about my experiences, and so I wanted to see what would happen, and I gave my email, which I thought was one that was very safe, and went that direction. So if they ask you for that, that's the first clue, because everyone that I did go to another platform to talk with them, every one of them ended up asking me for money, which is the very major proof of a scammer. I've never believed that a man would ask a woman who he's not married to for money.
Right.
Especially someone you don't know. You know, it just does not seem to be a manly thing to do. And so that, I don't know why, but yeah. If they ask you for money on the internet and you've never met them, hang up.
Yeah.
Report them. Stop. Don't send them any money. I knew I knew about scamming. My kids were very much against me starting to go on the internet dating site. But I'm not very good at taking orders, and I went anyway. I'm very curious, and that curiosity has gotten me in trouble quite a few times.
That's all right.
But I guess I kind of lost my train of thought here. Oh, so I avoided, you know, even though I went on the different platforms and chatted with them, I was very skeptical, and I figured they were probably scammers, and they proved to be that. The very first guy sounded like a very nice man, and so I ran a background check on him, and he was on there. There was a big report, and it looked pretty, you know, like everything he had told me. But just as I started to click out of there, I saw the names of daughters and, well, 3 women's names who he had told me had died as children. And these women were 63, or one of them 93. I figure it was his mother. So I knew immediately, right? I was so glad I had gone on there that he was lying to me. Wow. And his first thing to ask me was to go on a different platform. And he asked me for my email. It's better to chat with them for a while until you get acquainted, you know, and know whether, well, it's impossible to know if you're talking to, you know, really the person that says they are. Scammers will steal photos from other people, and those are victims also, because they don't know that their photos or their profiles have been stolen. Yeah. And put them up on sites, especially to fish for people like me coming along, wanting to find a partner and hoping, oh gee, this is a really good looking man. I'd really like to get to know this guy, and then find out that it really wasn't the person I was talking to.
Okay.
I have been in a relationship with a man that I met on the internet for the past year. And he's been on the internet off and on for 6 years. And we compare notes. And he will say, I know for sure that this last beautiful woman's picture that I got that wanted some money is really a man, and he's from Nigeria, because they sent him the phone number and it was from Nigeria. Here you go. So you can tell right away. Some other things are, if they're businessmen or they have their own business, they're free to talk anytime. So that gives, they can talk to you at any time, just about. And if they're going out of the country for work, that's a second. A businessman who's out of the country, has a young child. I mean, one guy was 75 and told me he had a 6-year-old daughter. I
don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so.
And as my friend Bill says, these young women that are 20 and 30 text him and say, "Oh, how wonderful your profile is, and I love what you say, and I really want to get to you." And he says, "How truthful is a 20 or 30-year-old woman looking for a 70-year-old man?" I don't think so.
Right.
And so he plays with them, back and forth, and they usually hang up on him, but I don't have that kind of a personality that I can say some of the things that he says.
Okay. Well, that's good that you've informed us about some of the things to look for as like warning signs and everything. So here's what you mentioned. If they ask you to go to a different platform, if they ask you for money, it's over. And if things just don't logically make sense. So that's what to avoid. Any best practices on some good things to look for?
The main thing, I think, for if you want success dating online, is to keep the proper, positive, fun attitude. Because this is a game. I don't care, I don't want to play games. Well, I don't care what they say. When you are dealing with dating and relationships, it's a game, and it's a good game. And if you can keep it fun and enjoy yourself with it, then that's good for you. A lot of times I think that people, if they're rejected, they take it personally, and it might have been a wrong kind. Might have been talking to somebody else, you just don't know. But it's not you. There is somebody out there who wants to talk to you, and you keep going, you persevere.
So that's a great thought process to have. Bring positivity, persistence, keep it fun. Perfect. So then, as far as if we let's switch back now. So we went from what to avoid to what to look for, back to what to avoid. Anything else come to mind? Any horror stories perhaps other people have experienced that, it's just something where you got to avoid it completely?
Well, you do hear every once in a while of a sad story where a woman met a man online and then dated him, and then when she introduced her children to him, and ended up, I think last week, killing the woman and the 2 children. I mean, thank God that doesn't happen, but it's scary enough that you wonder. And I was told, everything that I read said that these people want money. They don't want to meet. They don't want all the other hassles. They just want your money. And so probably 95% of them, maybe even 98% are safe. You don't have to worry about them. But there is that 1%, or so on. I did meet another lady in my city who told me that her daughter had dated someone she had met online for 4 years, and then they got married. Then she just discovered that her savings account was being drained. And the story, to make a long story short, he was even doing pedophile, talking to, children, had children pictures in his drawer and all kinds of things. And excuse me. So here, 4 years she dated him, then she married him, and she did not know these things about this man. I don't understand how that can happen, but
That
it does.
that sounds like that she was completely conned, and by what sounds like a very vile, despicable person.
Right?
So thank you for sharing that. So another example of what to avoid. So now we'll switch back. We switched back previously, so we're going to switch back now. So any success stories that people have just had a great experience?
Well, I was doing a display for my book at a street festival in my local city. And I had my big banner standing up here, and they noticed online dating. And so they told me they had met online and they had gotten married.
Oh,
And they had dated for a couple of years. And so I asked him, I said, what motivated you to get married? He says, I don't know. He says, I just woke up one morning and decided I was going to ask you to marry me. And they seem to be perfectly happy. My own experience here, I met Bill online 2 years ago. And we had a most enjoyable, flirtatious conversation. But he, I don't know. I went off to my dance. I came home and he was gone. His picture, his profile, everything was gone. So I thought I did something wrong. I didn't know what had happened to him. 6 months later, I saw his picture back on and I wrote back, welcome back. And so we started talking again. And what had happened was he met another woman who lived closer to him. He was in Indianapolis. I was in Michigan. It was a 3-hour drive. So, it's logical. Well, in the meantime, she had died.
Ah.
And so he had come back on.
Wow.
And finally we started talking. Well, that was in 2018 in May. And we met a few times and we talked, chatted occasionally. And then finally in Christmas time, I went down to Texas. He was down there for the winter, and spent a couple of weeks with him. Came home, and 2 weeks later, he says, what would you think about me moving to Sturgis, which is where I live? I said, oh, really? Because I had no idea that it was, that he was thinking along those lines. So 3 weeks later, he moved to Michigan and moved in with me just in time for the COVID quarantine. And so we've had a wonderful time playing cards and getting acquainted for the past year, where everybody else has been, very isolated and sad and so on. So I think internet dating is a wonderful thing if you can keep that positive attitude and keep, positive minded, keep that mindset that you need in order to have fun, because otherwise you're not going to go anywhere with that. My son's had a bad experience, a couple of them, and I keep telling him, you're too emotional about it. You're taking everything in too much, and you need to have fun with it. Oh yeah, mother, you're just mother. But I'm thinking that's where it is, really. But the internet dating, it gives, if you live out in the country, how are you going to meet somebody? I go to church, yeah, but, that didn't go anywhere. But with internet dating, even if you're not romantically inclined or looking for that, just to sit and talk to somebody like you and I right now, this is fun, don't you think?
I'm having a great time.
I met one man that I've never met him in person, but we talk every once in a while. And I said, he's not interested in a dating. I said, well, why are you on a dating site? Because I like to talk to people, and it's more fun than television. And so he has a great time just chatting with people, that he wouldn't have that opportunity in other ways. But these darn scammers scare so many people away from the websites. There's always somebody that's trying to ruin something that's good for other people, and I really get frustrated with that. I really wanted to help, especially people who are newly single, to assess their options and know what's available. And so in my book, actually it's in 4 parts. And the last part is about dating and internet dating and the scams. But the first part, I started it with my story of the last 4 days that my husband was alive, because I figured, well, they're going to want to know, readers are going to want to know why a 75-year-old woman is on an internet dating site, I thought.
I think you're right.
And so I started with that. And then so I talked all about grieving and dealing and the things I had to deal with during that time. And then I kind of merged the two together by discussing things like, what is love? What is attraction? You know, why do men and women have so much trouble communicating with each other? That's because they think differently. You know, I have one chapter on men and women are wired differently. And I say, I really wish I had known these things when my husband had been alive, and I would have understood. He says, you know, he was always saying, well, you just don't understand. And he was right, I didn't understand. But after learning these things that I had read from Carlos Cavallo, a relationship expert, I thought, oh boy, I really wish I had known this before. Well, for example, can I tell you an example? The minister at my church had this sermon this one day, and he says, and he put up on the screen, he said, this is what men are like. And he had a waffle. Men are compartmentalized. You know, they have everything organized and whatever. And then he says, and this is a woman. And guess what? It was a plate of spaghetti where everything is mixed together. And I thought, whoa, is that ever apropos? That's, yeah, that that meant a lot to me that I didn't know before. And so anyway, I'd like to tell you about the funniest experience that I had, if
Please
you
do.
got time. And actually it involved my friend Bill. I play the piano for senior citizens and nursing homes and so on.
Oh, wow.
And I was playing the piano one for lunch at the senior citizen home, and I heard my phone ding. It was on the piano bench next to me, and so I knew I had gotten a message. So when I finished that song, I just picked up my phone and quickly looked at it, and here was Bill had sent me a picture of himself, and he was naked from the waist up.
Wow.
And I kind of, oh my gosh, you know, wow, you know, and then I had to go back to playing. But actually, he said, well, I didn't really mean anything because I just came in from mowing the lawn and my shirt off, you know. But it was so funny. I got so tickled that I could almost hardly play.
Right. You had to refocus.
Yeah, right. So you never know what's going to happen, you know, but it's fun. You keep the fun, and you make things fun, and he does. I couldn't find my shoes while ago, and then I remembered where they were, and he said, "Are you sure they're not on your feet?"
Very witty.
Well, no, they weren't, but my phone is often in my pocket when I can't find it. Ever have that happen to you?
Let me tell you, it is probably a shared experience by many. Now, in your book, you mentioned the various parts that it covers. Love, the question of what is love? That's a question that goes back probably to as long as love has been around, to the beginning of time. What was the answer that you found in your experience?
Oh, well, let's see. That's been talking so much about the dating and the other thing that I've kind of forgotten, but it was kind of the difference between love and attraction. And first I looked in the dictionary for the meaning of love and the meaning of attraction, the meaning of lust, and other words. And the reason is I had this conversation with my friends, you know, what's the difference between being in love and loving somebody? And so that kind of got me going with this whole project to try to figure this out. And in fact, Bill had said, well, I love you like I love my kids or my friends, but I'm not in love with you. He said he was in love with his first wife, you know, when they were 19 and 18 and so on. I said, well, you were so young. What did you know then? You know, I was joking with him. But so I went for a search, and you know that I could not find the meaning of in love. In love is the definition of the word love, or one of the definitions.
Huh.
So it was very interesting. One of my friends said, well, um, love is what you feel for someone you care about, and being in love, that's just love, lust. And I don't know, really, you know. And then the couple other women said, well, you're in love with the one you marry, but you love your children. That was pretty good too. But in love, I asked them, if you are in love, does that mean, well, like with my friend Bill, I said, does that mean you fell in love with your wife the first time you saw her? Oh yeah, I did. And I said, well, I don't believe in love at first sight. I believe in lust at first sight. I believe you can like them and the way they look and the way they act and so on. But love comes from being together, sharing things, getting to know one another. And it takes time to develop that.
Like
Sometimes I think that people get married because they are in like.
Oh, in like.
Yeah.
Interesting. So they like, but then
think
not quite.
They think they're in love, but they're in like. And, you know, after a while, that passion, you know, you get used to things and you're not quite as passionate about them as you were in the beginning. And so it takes, they think they have to get divorced and go to find another man or woman just to re-excite themselves. And so I have this theory that divorce is because people don't understand what love is. They don't stay together long enough to develop the love. My husband and I, yeah, we loved each other. We stayed together for 50 years. He died 2 weeks before our 50th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
You know, was there passion there? Well, you know, not after 50 years. Plus, he'd been sick for 10. So, you know, but when you first start getting acquainted with someone, oh my, it's such a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And I think you get carried away, and I think maybe people rush into it too much. I ended that chapter with a verse from Ephesians that love is patient and kind.
Yes, yes.
And doesn't want harm to come to the other person and so on. And you know, that explains it all, I think, right there. But also, I think love is a commitment, and a lot of people are getting where they don't like that word commitment anymore. And I hope it doesn't get to where they don't like the word love anymore.
Oh man, you gotta keep love the sacred thing that it is. I like your mention of the Bible verse because that does sum it up very nicely, and I believe it finishes with "Love never fails."
Yeah, I think so too. I can't remember how it all fits in there, but you know, someone criticized me for putting a few of Bible verses in my book. I don't call it a spiritual book, but you know, if you are Christian, that attitude's going to come out somewhere. And so I was very frustrated with a couple of men because I really liked them and I thought they really liked me, but their families got in the way. You know, and so I took that Bible verse where it says in what is it, in Genesis, it says a man shall leave his parents and cleave unto his wife. And I said, well, I think a man should leave his children and cleave unto his new relationship or whatever.
Right.
But I would think that would create a lot of you know, problems too. This one man, he had 5 children, and 5 grown daughters, and I think, oh boy, 12, 13 grandchildren. I thought maybe it's a good thing it didn't work out. Shelby's too independent for that.
All right, there's a lot of parties involved. So, well, thank you, first of all, for sharing this information with us on something that is a shared reality by many people who want to connect with others during a time where it's a little bit more interesting or difficult to connect with people. So as the clock comes down here, allow me to ask you, and first of all, thank you for coming on. And then secondly, can you share with us, if someone wanted to learn more about you, how you can help them potentially, where would you direct them to go?
I have a website called learningtodanceintherain.org. And so they can reach me there. My email address is shelby@learningtodanceintherain.org. My book is on Amazon.com, and you'll find 2 books there because I wrote the book first 2 years ago, and had 23,000 words. And I added a lot of the scamming information to it and doubled the size of the book. So it just came out. It's just December 10th, it was on Amazon for the first time. They're still working out some bugs in it, but it's there. But yeah, it's called Learning to Dance in the Rain, Surviving Grief, Internet Dating, and Romance Scams. And I really hope that it is a help to other people to reassess their lives and help them to figure out, what do I want to be when I grow up?
Which is an important question that at some point everybody is faced with. So, Learning to Dance in the Rain, Shelby Wagner, the author. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.